Alright, what's up everyone, it's Matt Mrozik. Next project on the bench is going to be the quarter scale custom Hellboy from the Master Solid team. This is their first kit offering. So this is a pretty, I did an intro video. I'll put a link down below to that video, kind of reviewing the kit. So it's a really nice kit overall. There's a lot of freaking detail to this thing. So I believe this is based on the second movie, Hellboy and the Golden Army. I believe this thing down here is one of those wrecked Golden Army mechs. That's what I think it is. Okay, so for Hellboy, there's a couple of decisions we have to make. I've done some work already on this. I've added magnets to the bottom of the base for all these little heads, so these can come off. All these little horns are magnetized, so those can come off for shipping. I did end up dropping, I did have one break in shipping right here's the little guy, or actually I was trying to take it out. The tip broke off, so I got to resculpt that. No big deal. For Hellboy, he's got a couple switch outs I went over in the first video. He's got two heads. The first one. The sculpt's very nice on this. Let me zoom in. There's the first head. He's got a cigar. And this guy takes short horns. So you cannot switch out the horns on these guys. This one has short. Like that. Because they're keyed specifically to the head. And he's got short hair on the back. They both have a ponytail. Let me get that for you real quick so I show it to you. So both heads have ponytails, which I really dig. And they kind of come up like that. So there's that head. And then we have another head that has long horns. Like this. I don't want to drop the brittle. This resin's a little brittle, so I don't want to drop these. Little break. So there's the other head with the long horns. And then he's got long hair too. Which I dig. I kind of dig the long hair. Just like this. So, I gotta make a couple of decisions here. As far as what I'm going to do, is basically has to do with the heads. He has one switch out on the upper arm here. He's got a pistol for one, and then the other one is over here. Kind of got taken apart. It's like a Gatling gun pistol thing. I see I got a little breakage right there I got to fix, and that goes on like so. So I've added magnets to these two, so those can be switched out easily. There are a lot of little pieces on this thing that keep wanting to break, unfortunately. Like that little necklace wants to break. So that can go like that. And that's kind of a weird angle, but... So I have done some work on this already. I magnetized the hands. I magnetized the heads. I'm going to glue him together as one piece. I think that's just the best way to do it. I got to fix a couple little things heating wise with resin. But the main thing I've got to decide here, or really work on before I do any paint, is the heads and how they go on. So, and it has to do with these bullets specifically right here. Because if you glue those on, this head is no problem. It goes on and off, no problem. There's no interference. But if I glue those on, and I want to put this hair on, like I can't take the hair and go from the back. It doesn't fit. It's got to come down from the top. It hits the bullets. So I've got to keep those bullets a separate piece so that when you put the hair on, you can put the bullets in. And they overlap the hair a little bit. So I'm going to, I don't have any magnets small. Actually, they don't go in all the way. Oh, there they go. You put the hair on just right, they'll go in all the way. I don't have any magnets small enough to magnetize that, so I'll probably just put a little pin in there. So this hair fits on kind of a very specific way, just like that. So I'm wondering if I need to One thing I want to do is I want to glue this hair on and kind of fix this little, I'm not sure that's supposed to be a bandana. Maybe it is supposed to be a bandana. It doesn't have it on this one, but I'm thinking that's supposed to be a, like a tie that comes across the back of his hair there. At least that's what it kind of looks like, and then that goes on. Because it's not, this is not sculpted as hair texture. I think it's supposed to be a tie, but it's not on this one, which is kind of weird. So I'm going to treat it as a tie because it looks like that's what it's sculpted as. So ideally, I could glue this hair on and kind of fix that seam a little bit, and that way the head just goes on and off like so, and then my client can put the bullets back on. So it's kind of an interesting fit the way this works. So I think I need to, I'm just thinking out loud here, I'll make painting the face a little bit harder because it'll be harder to get paint right in there, but I think it's going to be okay. But I think that's what I got to do. I think I got to glue that hair on and just make this part removable. And that, I may not even need a pin. By the time I get paint on there and everything, it'll be, it should be pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, it's not want to go down all the way. That hair's got to be on just right for this to work. I mean, I guess the other option is to, yeah, because you can't. Again, I'm just thinking out loud here. Yeah, see if it, yeah, okay. Where am I hitting? I may sand these bolts down a little bit. I may reshape them a little bit. Let's try that. Because it's going to cause some problems interference-wise. So today I'm going to work on, I kind of got like, just going to reshape these bolts a little bit. And do them all so they're all consistent. I'm just going to sand them down a little bit. Now I'm seeing if I can put the head on and off. Maybe I just leave the hair separate. Okay. I'm not going to glue the hair on because I think it's going to cause more problems than anything else. Because I think what needs to happen is this hair needs to go on and get it fit just right, and then put the head on top like that, and that will just be kind of like a natural shadow from that headband. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I got some other fitting things I got to deal with. Nothing real major, just a few little things. These little guys are going, oh, I know, I got two of the same pieces over here where they both are left. These guys that go in the back of the backpack or straps, they're the same piece. They're keyed differently, so I've got to rekey. So this one should go like that, and this one should fit in also, but it's the wrong key. So I'm just going to sand it. I'm going to sand this key down a little bit right here so it goes in, and these will get glued in anyway, so I just sand this down. I'm just going to sand that top part down. Let's see if it goes in now. Yeah, see, now it fits in. So I just sanded the key so it doesn't matter where it goes. So that's going to go there. So that fits now. The tail, it's already got a magnet in it from the factory. I added magnets to all the pouches. So I'll ship those separately. You can put them on. What else did I do? Added magnets. I don't know if I already carded this. I added magnets to that gun. Added a magnet to this. Those will get glued on. What else did I do? This arm already has a magnet in there from the factory. This one does not, and I found out why they didn't do that. It's because when you take this arm off, there's not enough. Did I put a pin in there? I don't know, it's just got a lot of blue tack. So there's not enough meat in the kit in the center here to put a pin or a magnet, because I was going to add a magnet right there, but as soon as I drilled in, I hit the magnet from the other side. There's physically no room to add a magnet there. So that arm will just get glued in. So even though this came packed really well, I don't think I'm going to be able to use the original packing, because this kit was designed by a bunch of painters. So it makes sense because everything's broken down into as many pieces as possible for painting purposes. So you know it's designed by painters. So I'm going to get this blue tack out of here. And then I think today what I can do is maybe get some red sprayed on, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat again. Get some red sprayed on the skin parts. So that would require you doing the fingers on the hands too. All the hands have gloves on. So that means spraying the fingers, the heads, and the torso. And then, once that's done, I can work on doing some of the detail stuff. There's a ton of details in this. I don't even know how long this is going to take me. It's going to take me at least a week to do this. And it's today's Tuesday. I didn't do anything yesterday. I had family stuff going on, so yeah, it's a cool piece. This video's not the best because my mind is somewhere else right now, but we're going to work on this, get this thing going. So I'm going to give these pieces a bath. The torso, anything that's got skin on it, I'm going to give it a bath. Did I add a magnet? I think I added a magnet. No, I did add a magnet to his torso, so I don't have to glue them together. The question is that I don't think I glued the feet on. I'm going to take all this off. I forgot. It's been a couple weeks since I looked at this thing. I had it up on a shelf. So I know I got all the pouches magnetized. Tail's magnetized. Torso's magnetized. This arms are magnetized from the factory, even though it's not the best magnet. Let's see. I wonder if I should just glue the feet on. I don't remember how it's packed, or magnetize them. Let's see. Do I have? Let's see if I got what I got for magnets. Do I have any big magnets left? I don't know. I do. I can magnetize the feet. Yeah. Let's see, these too big. So I got some 1/2-inch diameter magnets here. Yeah, they'll fit. So maybe I may do that. I may magnetize the feet. So let's take a look at that and see what that looks like. I'll show you how I do that. I'll show this on there. I'll show it again. Alright, so what I'd like to do is, I got these 1/2-inch in diameter, 1/4-inch thick magnets. And I may stack them, since it goes on the legs, may stack them just so it's a little more stable. So I get a really good traction. Okay. So one thing is that this key is not flat. I'm going to take a pause and be right back. Okay, I went to go get the packing to see how it's packed to make sure I was correct. Yeah, the feet were separate in the box, so I think I'm going to magnetize these and see. It should be stable enough. So what we do first is we're going to do this one over here first, because the key's flat. And I'm going to mark the center. I'm just going to use a little stirring stick to do so. Because I don't have a whole lot of room just like that. Okay, so I got the center marked. And for now, I'm going to do is use a hand pin vise to drill a little hole there. And then since this resin is kind of brittle, we're going to work our way up slowly to the correct size. Because if I try to go that size right away, it's going to crack out. Now I'm going to take some blue tack and put it down in the boot. I'm going to put that in, give it a little squeeze, and hopefully it stays. It does. Okay, so now if you look in there, see that little tab of blue tack sticking out? That's where the hole's got to go, or that's where the center of the hole's got to go. So I'm going to do my best to go straight down. Mark just like that. I can take the blue tack out. Alright, so now you got the spot where the hole goes. Now what we do is get the drill out. And we're going to start with, so we're just going to slowly work our way up. So I'm going to start with like a 9/64 bit. No particular reason for that size, it's just a this is a messy process. You're going to get resin dust everywhere, so I like to do it over a trash can. Okay, do that. I'll show you one here, and then I'm going to drill on this side. Go up 2 sizes, up to 11/64. Just gotta work your way up slowly when the resin is this type of resin. Okay, and now I'm gonna go to a 13/64. I'm just kind of going up 2 sizes at a time now until I get to the big stuff. I'm not worried about the boot cracking out so much as I'm worried about the leg cracking out because you're on a key, so you don't have that thick resin all the way around it. And you do have to be careful because when you start drilling, it'll grip the resin and it'll want to pull the drill through. And I've drilled my hands several, not on these not too much, but on some most smaller pieces. If that drill bit grips the resin and pulls the drill through, you put a hole in your hand. I've done it several times. Not so much on these pieces because they're thick, but on smaller pieces, yeah, it's not fun. Okay, now we're to a 1/4 inch. I'm drilling these holes about 3/4 of an inch deep because I may stack these, so I have a 1/2 inch. A magnet that's 1/2 inch thick. The more you have, the more pulling power it's got. Now we just go one at a time. That's 1/4. Here's 5/16. And also go a little bit slower drilling wise. On this side. Sorry about my lap. I'm doing it over the trash can, that's why I can't see. Okay. I'll go to 3/8. I wish I had another drill bit set because you can get them where there's this starts jumping up quite a bit. It goes from 3/8 to 1/2, so it jumps a whole 1/4 of an inch. in size. I wish I had a set that was a more gradual. I'm going to go real slow on this leg here. Okay, that, like this. Go real slow. Okay, I wanted to pull it in. Just wanted to grip. Okay. Now the last one, 1/2 inch. I'm just gonna go slow. Hopefully it doesn't try to pull it in. So I'm still not exactly centered, so I hope it's okay on this part. I'm gonna go super slow. See how we got. Alright, so I'm gonna go a little further. I'm just going real slow because I don't want this to grip or crack out. If I feel like it's gonna grip, I back it out. Okay. So now we got our 2 holes. That. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, let's see, I think I got enough, yeah, I'm going to put in 2 magnets down in here. Excuse me. I always get frogs in my throat when I record. It's really freaking annoying. I think I get 2 in there. Let's see. Tight fit, which is good. Just lightly tapping this down. So now what I do is I want to check to make sure that the fit down here is pretty good. Well, that has a little loose. Make that hole a little bit looser. So now what I'm going to do is get my petroleum jelly, Vaseline, and I'm going to put some on this side here, this magnet. Do this. Around the key. Just like that. And then we're going to put this magnet on like that, so now that won't stick. Let's see if I'm going to check, make sure. Now I'm just checking to make sure that I can push the foot in and those magnets go down to that hole down there. It's perfect. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue in here. Down this hole. Like so. I'm going to spray some kicker on these magnets. Spray some kicker on these guys. And then I'm going to put it in there and hold it for a second. Let that kicker do its thing. And then hopefully when I pull this out, the magnets stay in the boot. And it's not glued on. I just like to hold there for a few seconds. Let's see what we got. Perfect. So those magnets stayed in there. And I'm gonna, since these are the hollow magnets, I'm gonna just fill up with the glue. To make sure they're going to stay the way they're supposed to stay. But there you go. So that's how you do that. I'm going to do that to the other side, and then the boots will be magnetized. And then I think I'm ready to give this stuff a bath. Yeah, it's got a little bit of give in it, just so for placing purposes on the base. But yeah, it's plenty strong. So I'm going to do that to the other side, and then we'll come back. I'll do that to the other side. I'll give everything a bath, and we'll maybe start spraying some paint. Alright, so give everything a bath yesterday. Got started doing our thing, so I'm going to start putting some paint down. And I want to try something on this guy. I want to try using my craft paints. So the first color I'm putting down is this Anita's acrylic. This is called True Red. So the interesting thing is how dark these dry. So you can see the color there in my cup. And this is what it dries down to. Now I sprayed it over gray primer. I didn't spray it over white. If I would have sprayed it over white, it would have been brighter. So what I think is that this is actually like the perfect tone for this Hellboy. So this is based off of Ron Perlman and the Golden Army. So I already sprayed the heads and they look really good. This is actually, I think, the perfect color for them. So I'm going to base coat it, everything else in this color. And then what I'll probably do is go in and add shadows and then spray another light coat of this on top of it so the shadows are buried. So let me get like the arm over here. So the main difference of spraying these these paints and the other paints that I'm used to spraying is that you just have to put on real light. There's like the thinning rate. Again, thinning ratios are all. There's no like one thinning ratio. So I just mixed up some paint until it sprayed the way I wanted it to spray. At first I had too much water in there and it was going on, there's too much surface tension, so it wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I've got this in here, and I'm just literally just, right there, that's probably got too much water and I can tell. So I'm going to add some more pigment to it. Yeah, it's going on too wet, so I'm going to put a little more paint in there. And you get the tricky part is mixing this up really good. So I'm using my electric paint stirrer to break up all the pigment and get it all mixed up really good. Put a little more in there. So what I'll do is after I get this base coat that I want, I will seal it. I put a little more paint in. Let's see if it may be too thick now. Let's see. I found a video on YouTube of a guy who uses these, and he was trying to come up with a thinning ratio, but it's like anything else, any other paints, really no correct like 1-to-1 or anything on these. You just got to put it on thin. So the first few layers you have to go on real thin. And I think maybe these are only good for, like, I don't know if I would do shading with these. I don't think they atomize quite right. But I do think they're good for base coating. So we'll see. So you notice when I first put this on, it's going to look pretty dark. It just takes probably 4 or 5 light coats, and then I go on and put kind of a wet coat on to even things out. Again, if I spray this over white, it would be a brighter shade of red. But I'm kind of digging this color. Look how dark that looks compared to the heads already right now. It's because there's not a lot of pigment in these paints. You got to build it up slowly. What I did notice is that it retains the details very well on the piece. Since it's mostly carrier and less pigment, the carrier evaporates away, and you're left with a really thin layer of color, which is perfect for retaining detail. So I'm just going to spray this one piece on camera because it takes a little while. I can't hose this on like I do my lacquers or even some of the other coats I use. You got to put them on. You got to do it light. And I'm seeing a little imperfection here in the kit I never saw before. So I'm just going to kind of take care of it. And I'm not worried about messing with the paint because I'm still spraying. Okay. If I kind of mess up the paint there, there's no big deal because we're still spraying. I just have to make sure I hit that again. So my client sent me some pictures of the prototype they painted. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I didn't even realize that they had one painted yet. There's a lot of details that I think they could have brought out in the prototype paint. Now, granted, these guys are painting all these in-house; they're not having a factory do it. So, it's like a team of 2 or 3 guys, maybe 2, painting all the guys that ordered painted pieces. They're doing them all. So, you know, there's only so far they can do unless they want to spend a year painting them all. Okay, so now I'm to the point where I've got enough color on here where there's like the surface tension from the water is pretty non-existent. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on kind of like a decent, kind of a wet coat. I'm trying to look for other alternatives since with COVID, a lot of the colors and paints I use they're just hard to get. I can get them, but I have to, where I pay maybe $3 for a bottle of paint, it's $6 or $7, and I mean, unless I double my, increase my rates, which they're not cheap as it is. They're not cheap. They're not crazy expensive, I don't think, but again, this is these are collectibles. It's a hobby. It's not. I may have too much paint in there now. I'm gonna have to find all different paints I can use for certain things. So like base coating, which takes a lot of material, if I can find an alternative for that, that's great. Because base coating takes a lot of paint. You're trying to get full coverage. So this arm right here, this is the left arm. This will get glued on. I was chatting with my buddy Floyd who has this kit, and he told me how he magnetized his left arm, but he's like, I'm gonna glue it on anyway because this is where the switch outs are, and it's holding those you know, that big Gatling gun pistol thing. So now I'm gonna hit it with a hair dryer. And it dries pretty quick. Put another coat of paint on. I'm just making sure that I got the same color as the heads. Again, it's pretty. Again, I think it may not have enough water in here now. It's a little thick. That's okay. You can see it goes on pretty bright, like it's in the bottle, but it dries down a good, at least one shade darker, which just happens to be the perfect shade. If I would have known that, I would have started with a brighter color, but this will also make this work. No big deal. I may do the shadows and then use a lacquer paint and just mist that on as a top coat, because I've got a lacquer paint that I think would be a nice color also, and it atomizes better. I'm not painting the whole arm, like I'm not painting the whole key because it's going to be glued on. I'm going to paint around this edge though pretty good. See, look, so when it's wet, it's the same color. When it dries down, it's quite a bit different. So just about a minute with the hair dryer, and we're at the same color as the head. So I'm going to get the torso and everything and the other arm and get those base coated, and then we'll take a look at them after that. Okay, so I got it all base coated. I sealed everything with some flat, and I'm going to go and do some shading. So what I've got some GarageKits.us transparent black red. So I got that on my airbrush here. This is all experimenting. This is a new, different way of doing Hellboy than I've done in the past, so we'll see how this works out. But now I'm going to go in here and shade the muscles. Let's see how this looks. So I'll just do like maybe the arm on camera. I sealed it because I wanted to, in case I kind of messed up with it, so I can wipe it away. And with it being that acrylic paint, if I go to wipe it away, the paint would come off. If I'm careful, I'm able to do some 2 steps. Let's see. It's looking pretty good. Again, there's some subtle muscles in here. You gotta kind of turn it in the light to see everything. I was going in here real light with this transparent color because it's pretty dramatic, and I really like the tone of red I have right now overall. So I'm going in real light. Try to get that kind of frame where I'm working. So I'm backed up pretty far because these are the big muscles, and as they get tighter I come in closer. I'm barely getting any paint coming out of my airbrush when I do this, just real slow, building it up. I want to kind of make these muscles a little more gradual, so I back off and spray in the direction of the highlight. And I'll just do this arm on camera. It's looking really good. A little detail there. And then he's got this tattoo on his arm. I'm going to do that with a wash. In a little bit. He's got some scars also. Sculpted in, which is pretty cool. Underneath the arm, pretty heavy under the armpit. I've got my needle lock set so I can only pull the needle back so far, so I don't accidentally shoot a big stream of paint. Transparent black rose seems to be just this right shade, not too. I can always go in and darken a little bit if I want, as long as I don't hit it too hard to begin with. It's looking pretty good. I think I may have found my new Hellboy formula. So you can see I'm just kind of starting here and swiping up. There's a wrinkle right there. So I start here, and where I want it to fade up, I just kind of flick the airbrush up. And same right here. Start in the deepest crevice and then kind of flick it down. I'm gonna hit this a little heavier. part takes a while. Especially when you have a good sculpt. You got a lot of muscles to go in and bring out. There's some hair sculpted down here, so I need to see how to handle that. And dry brush some dark red on top of it, or how we're going to bring that out. It's really nice. The sculpt is awesome. Like right here in the elbow, you got these cool little wrinkles in there. I mean, the sculpt's very good. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. And as you do this, it does darken down just a little bit because you get the overspray from shading, and it does kind of get on the rest of the piece. That's okay. I'm hitting this pretty hard here. The armpit. Okay, I think this arm's looking pretty good. So we bring over the other arm. Kind of see the difference. And when I hit this with sealer, it'll bring it out even more. But it does darken the whole thing down just a little bit. I'm going to go in here and hit these a little bit harder. A few of them. And I'll just have to match the other pieces to match this arm. This first one is kind of like the reference for the rest of the kit as far as the skin goes. I'm going to go ahead and hit the veins too. I'm going to put my needle lock in even a little bit further. Yeah, just a hair. Getting some dry tipping. Oh shoot, didn't want to do that. There we go. These are kind of hard to do on camera, so I really gotta get in the right light to see what I'm doing. But there's the idea. So I'm gonna go through, finish this. I'm gonna finish shading everything, and we'll come back and take a look. But I think you get the idea, and it's looking really good. All right. Well, after several hours, I've got all the red parts painted and shaded, and they're looking really good. I got all this done. I was like, oh, I forgot. I got to do the hands. I got to do the tails and the horns. So that's all done. Looks really sharp. They've been sealed really good. So I think I'm gonna let these dry really good overnight because I've sealed them several times. I want them to dry really, really well before I do anything else. But like these heads look really nice. The shading on the head looks good. So we darkened down a little bit, which is fine. But The shading isn't really showing up too much in camera, but it's there. I don't want to go any more because it'll be too dark, but I'm really digging it. So I'm happy with the way that's looking. So I'll continue this work in progress. Tomorrow I'll base coat the hair and probably get the hair done, maybe get the portraits knocked out. It's just a matter of doing the hair and putting the eyes in. So we'll probably work on that tomorrow. But yeah, it's looking good. I'm digging this color of red. I really like it. So I also put the heads on the torso as I go just to make sure that we're matching, because we do want to make sure it's the same shading and everything. And again, because he's a little shiny, the shading's not showing. The shading's a little more subtle than I've done in the past on Hellboys, but I really like it. It's got a lot of fine veins in here, some birthmark, like pimples and stuff, but yeah, it's looking sharp. So what else can I show you? I just got done doing the tail and the horn, so they just got top coated, so they may be, yeah, the tail's is dry enough to handle. So I kind of did what I did in the previous Hellboys. I darkened the base and the tip a little bit, add a little shading in here to give it some shape. Looks real nice. Oh, it goes into the pants, which I don't have. I'm going to put that to the side, let that dry overnight really well. Oops. Let's see, and let's look at the horns. So the horns, I really like those horns. They're not smooth like the Naren. They're kind of like, I don't know, like bone. It's kind of hard to describe because it's a really cool texture. So I think tomorrow, if these dry, I'm going to do a light wash in these and bring out some of these details. But again, I kind of shaded the base a little bit, shaded the tip, and then just add some shading where there's turns. I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm thinking I'm just going to glue these in. We'll see, because you can't switch them between heads. If you rekey them, you could, but they're meant, like these long horns are meant to go on this portrait, and then the short horns are meant to go on the other portrait. So I may just glue these in, and then it's just a matter of recutting the foam that these go in to ship. But they're gonna look sharp. So yeah, so I'll continue with this work in progress after these dry tomorrow, overnight, and then we'll put the hair and maybe finish up the portraits. Okay, so picking up from where we left off yesterday with the red, I've spent some time this morning, and I base coated the hair. So I went to go back and look at some reference photos of Ron Perlman in this movie, and his hair is just black. I thought about going in and doing some dry brushing with some red, but I mean, his hair is just black in the movie, so I may just do, I just may leave it. I don't know. I gotta ask my client, because on the Naren Hellboy, I dry brushed some red on there, but in the movie, it's just he just has black hair, but it looks really good. So it took a little while. I just sealed it a little bit ago, so that's drying. Also base coated this part and both ponytails, so those are drying. I put a good coat of sealer on those. I'll probably seal them again because there'll be some paint rubbing from switching out the heads. I also was going to go in and do a wash on these scars on his arm, but again, looking at reference photos from the movie, they're not dark or anything, so I may do a light wash just so they bring it out, but in the movie there's no wash on them, or they're not darker, so I just, again, may just leave it. You can see them pretty well, so my thinking is just leave it without darkening it all, because it's just to kind of go with the movie. So what I'm going to do now is I went over the horns last night. I kind of base coated those and shaded those with that dark red that I used on the skin and everything. So those have dried. I'm going to do a wash on those. And I'm also going to do the Fist of Doom today. I think we're going to base coat this. I want the horns and the Fist of Doom to kind of be the same color as him, but just darker. So I've got one little snafu here I'm going to fix here in a second with just some Bondo. I got a little chip there. So I'm going to do that real quick. Let me fix that chip real quick. And then So I'm gonna just use some body filler. I'm not gonna use A's because A's would take 24 hours to cure. I think I can do it pretty quick with some body filler. So let me do that real quick. And then I'll get the fist base coated in that same color I used yesterday. And I'll do the shading, and then I'm going to bring it all down again with the, let's see, I need a little popsicle stick. Need some hardener. So my goal today, I gotta try to set myself some goals so I can keep on track. This is gonna be a long project. This is gonna be at least a week long, and it's all painting. I have spent about 2 days in prep. What was I saying? Oh, so my goal today is to kind of get the red done, get the portraits knocked out, get the hair done, and that stuff, and then move on to doing a ton and ton of hand painting that this piece is going to take, because there's so much going on. A piece of scrap cardboard. I use those for mixing up body filler. I don't need a whole lot. It's way more than I need. Ooh, this stuff stinks. It is smelly. It's like when I open up a can of body filler, it's like it is totally deja vu to my days when I used to paint cars. I'll be right back. I gotta do something. Sorry, I got some body filler on my shirt, so I need to get some thinner to take it off. Alright, so I'm gonna mix this up on this little scrap piece of cardboard. I don't need a lot. I'm not sure what happened to that corner. Must have got bumped or something. Just gonna kind of fill this in, and I don't care what it looks like right now because we're gonna sand it down to the right shape once it's dried. You know, the amount of hardener I put on this, it should dry pretty quick. Okay. So just like that. All right. Let that dry for 5 or 10 minutes. I'll come back and sand it, and then we'll base. So what I'll do is I'm going to get this sanded down, get this base coated in the red, and then I'll come back. All right. So while the Fist of Doom dries, the base coat, I'm doing a wash on the horns, and all I'm using for that is Garage Kus.us transparent black, and it's got some here in my palette. I'm just basically brushing over this and letting it go into all the cracks. It's going to darken the whole thing down, which is what I want. But it's also going to just get into the... I'm going to turn... Get some more light on here. The autofocus is wanting to focus on the background because there's stuff back there. See, it likes to focus on hard edges, so it focuses on everything but what I'm working on. There we go. Maybe. Come on. Get away from. Come on. There we go. Okay, so I'm just brushing this on and letting it fall into the cracks. And then I'll let this dry, and then I'll seal it. But now you can see all those details. Once I seal it, it'll look better. So I'll just show you what I did. I'm going to do this to the horns, and I'm going to do this also to the Fist of Doom. Kind of want the horns and the Fist of Doom to match. So I'm just taking this paint and just basically slopping it on. This, and it's gonna get into all the cracks. I was gonna do an enamel wash at first, but I don't have a color that I want to use. I thought using the Starship wash would work, but it's got green in it. I don't want to add any green to this. And I tried the dark red again, but it just I wanted the details to pop more. just kind of put it on, let it flow. You know, it doesn't dry right away, so you got some time to work with it. If you get too much in an area, just take your brush over it, over that area. If you didn't get enough in some area, put a little more. But yeah, these ones have got a bit of texture in them. I want to bring that out. And I want to darken them down, so this works perfectly. So this is a little different than quite a bit different than what I did on the Nair and Hellboys. This actually has a lot more detail in it, in the sculpt, a lot more texture. The Nair and Hellboy, like the skin is all smooth, and it's a great sculpt, but I'm digging this one a little bit more. I think the likeness of Ron Perlman is better on the Nair piece. The likeness on this is pretty good, but Nair really nailed the likeness on his. Alright, I'm just going to take some of this excess. It's kind of pooling down here, I don't want it to pool. I'm just going to kind of do this bit. Yeah. It's been pretty good. I got a little too much here. So if we had too much, what I do is I just dab my paintbrush on a paper towel, and then just go back and kind of dab it, and the brush will soak up any extra. So let's look at these together, make sure they're pretty close. Yeah. So we'll let those dry. Maybe the short ones too. Same process. You couldn't do this airbrushing. You got to put it on wet and let it flow into all the crevices. If you airbrush it, you just get an even coat. We don't want that. We want this to run. This is one of the instances where we want the paint to run. Usually you don't want your paint to run, but in this case we do. We want it to run everywhere, in all those little nooks and crannies. I don't really care what this looks like down here, because you're not going to see that. That's the part that goes into the head. So it'll take a while to dry because I got a lot of paint on there. I don't want to hit it with the hair dryer, because you'll just push the paint around. If I want to go try to dry this, you just push it around, and you just mess up everything you did. So when you do something like this, when you do a wash, and you got a lot of kind of paint, wet paint and crevices and stuff, just let it dry on its own. Don't try to blow dry it, because you'll undo all the work you did. Let it sit in there and it may take it a while, because you got a lot of little teeny microscopic puddles of paint in there, but you won't mess up the work. And again, this doesn't take very long, but you can see I'm just slopping it on there. I'm not being real careful about it. It's a pretty easy thing to do. I never used to do washes until I started doing figures. I never did a wash on a mech, although I know when you do weathering and stuff, like guys do washes. Alrighty, so that's looking really good. So we're going to let those dry really well. And then the Fist of Doom, I just sealed it. So now we're starting out as the same color as the torso. And we're going to go in and shade this. I'll go ahead and do a little bit of this on camera. I won't do the whole thing because I showed you. It's the same process as I did on the skin. And then I'll do a wash on this, so it's nice and dark. I'm not going to go in and do like the gold inlays, because he doesn't have that. So we're going to go in here and we're going to, this is just a garage, again, this is Garage Kit's .us transparent black red. At first I thought it'd have too much purple in it because it looks kind of purple when you spray it, but that actually makes sense because dark red kind of does have some purple in it. I'm going to put this somewhere where you can see it and where I can see what I'm doing, because again, it's hard to airbrush and film sometimes. So again, you just got to put, you can't hose this stuff on. It's pretty thin. I'm going to put my needle lock in a little bit so I don't accidentally, sometimes I'll accidentally like pull it back all the way and I get a big puddle and I gotta deal with it. Put the end of the world. But it usually takes, for this, maybe 2 or 3 little passes with this color to see an effect, since we're putting red on red. So the shading on this piece is a little more subtle than I'd normally do like on the Narins, but it looks really good. I think I said this like on the my last Hulk, is that you work on something for a day or 2 days and you're like, man, you have to step back and maybe wait a day or 2 days to look at what you've done to see if you like it. With fresh eyes, it really helps big time. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to do all those little crevices and everything first, and then I'll go in and do the patterns. Maybe a little looser on this than I was on the Hellboy. The Hellboy's pretty tight, especially on the face. I got him really tight. Throwing little pencil line shadows and stuff. Also, when I go to seal this, I found out that since I'm doing dark red on top of red, I lose some of the shading. So I learned to over exaggerate it just a little bit. And when I seal it, it kind of just blends perfectly together. Fisted Doom done today, the horns done. I think I'll get the red done today. It'd be nice. And then let's see what time it is. I painted till about 10 o'clock last night. I got a late start in the day though. I spent the day watching the inauguration. We don't talk politics on my YouTube channel, but if you want to talk politics on Facebook, on my private, on my Matt Moroza page, go for it. I'll argue with anyone. I argue with a lot of guys on Facebook about politics. Everyone's got their own opinion, and it's really funny to listen to some. But, you know, everyone's entitled. What I don't like is when, I don't mind people arguing. When to be honest, if you follow me on Facebook, you know I post shit just to kind of stir the pot, because it's fun to sit back and watch people go at it. But I don't mind people arguing or having a civilized conversation, but when you start name calling people, that's when I have problems. Don't need to go resort to name calling. I'll call people out on that and I'll block them sometimes. Or not block them, but I'll just tell them to shut up and take their comments down. That's just ridiculous. Then you're just acting like a child. But I don't mind people having arguing or a debate. Just be civil about it. You know? Alright, so I'm going to finish this up off camera and then I'll see it and we'll come back. Alright, so I did the shading on the Fist of Doom and sealed it. Now I was going to ask what do I seal with and what does sealing mean. So when you're doing these, when you're painting and you get to somewhere where you're happy with what you have, I go in and seal it. So I put on a couple coats of this Krylon Crystal Clear Flat. I'm not sure exactly what kind of paint it is. It's not an acrylic, I know that. I want to say it's a lacquer base, but it doesn't say anywhere on here because it dries pretty quick and I'm allowed to do wet stuff on top of it like acrylics and stuff like that. Now lacquer would eat this through, but so I go in my paint room and I spray a couple coats of this on, and depending on what look I want, if I want like the look like this of the skin where it's got a little bit of sheen on it, I put it on pretty wet. If you just kind of mist it on, you'll get a dry look. But then you get kind of you can kind of get a pebbly or textured feel to the paint. So I usually put it on kind of medium wet. It dries to not completely flat, but it dries to kind of a nice and light sheen, which looks perfect for skin. If I want something dead flat, then I'll use like, for a final thing, I'll use, I've got some Vallejo flat varnish, or I'll use all clad flat top coat. So let's see if the horns are dry. These should be dry enough to seal. Yeah, so I'll go seal these with the flat, and those will be done. But before I do that, I'm going to do that wash on the Fist of Doom. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to get some clear black here. And I'll use a bigger brush because it's a bigger surface. So whenever I say I went and sealed that, that's all I'm doing. I'm going back to my paint room, which is behind me, and I'm putting on a couple coats of that Krylon, and it dries, depending on how wet you put on, it dries to the touch in a few minutes. So it just allows you to keep working. And you'll notice that when I, if I kind of make a mistake with a watercolor or an acrylic, I can go in there and relatively easily wipe off that mistake without affecting the previous steps. So that's why you seal things. You're just protecting your previous work. And that's the main reason for that. Okay. So now I'm gonna go in here. I got a big flat brush for this, and we're gonna do the same thing as we did on the horns. We're gonna just kind of come in here, and now I didn't do any shading on these patterns on the fist. I'm just gonna let the wash kind of go in there and do it. Excuse me, I just got done eating lunch. So it's going to darken everything down a little bit, which is what I want, and it's going to get in all the little nooks and crannies of everything. I'm just using a big flat brush because I've got a bigger area to work on. So that should give me a nice kind of dark rusted red look. I have to go back and may blot some of this off. I have too much on here, we'll see. So you see I'm kind of fighting some surface tension here from the sealer. Just wanted to beat up on me a little bit because this is an acrylic, so it's water based. And that happens, I just got to kind of work it a little bit more, and as it starts to dry a little bit, I'll be able to work it a little bit. Take some of this off. I think it's pretty heavy. Got it on this little skewer and it's pretty heavy for it. Yeah, I'm just kind of dabbing my brush off here and there to kind of help get some of the excess off. Alright, so I'm going to finish doing this and then let it dry and seal this and the horns, and we'll take a look. Alrighty, so I got the horns done. They look really good. Went and sealed them again. Sealed them twice, let it dry and seal again. They look really nice. So let's see what that looks like on the head. That'd be a nice contrast. This should be darker than the head overall, which is what I wanted. So this one goes on this side. Yeah, it's nice. It's about 2 shades darker than the head, which is perfect. I got some nice shading in there. And we've got that wash that brings out all those details. So the horns are done. I also got the Fist of Doom done also. Let's take a look at that. These up here so I don't mess them up right now. Sorry, I'm just getting stuff put to the side. And I want to get the arm out that goes on to see what it looks like on. Okay. So here's the Fist of Doom. It's been sealed a couple times. And it's a nice contrast against the arm. Perfect. So that's done. Yay! Okay. I've also base coated the eyes. I'll show you what colors I use because it's a custom mix. I used Vallejo game paint. This is a 151 heavy golden brown, and then I put in a little bit of filthy brown. This is more yellow, and this is on the tanner side. So mix them together, and it's a nice little compromise between the two. Now I found out that in the movie Hellboy, at least according to the photos I've seen, he actually has green eyes. So on the Naren Hellboys, I did gold eyes. But if you zoom in, it's got a gold background with green eyes. So let's see if that's true. I'm gonna look up another picture just to make sure I'm not seeing that wrong. So let's do a Google search. Eyes. Images. So here's the prosthetic. Yeah, they're the kind of green. Here, oh, they're kind of, it depends on the light. They're greenish gold. So I'm thinking that with the color I have on the back of the eyes, I'm going to put in these guys right here. They're kind of greenish gold. And they may have been what I used in the past. I don't remember. So again, I'm going to try to, I won't be able to show a whole lot of this on camera because that does have an optimizer on and stuff, but I use decals, as I always say. Someday I will learn how to paint eyes. Eventually. So we're going to cut these guys out. I've already base coated the eyes and sealed the heads, so we got this kind of gold background. And these decals are pretty translucent, so that will come through these decals. So if I'm thinking correctly, between this decal and the color I have the eyes base coated in, it should give me the correct greenish gold tint that I am seeing in the reference photos. The great thing about movies is that they always take a ton of reference photos. So they actually have I used to work with a photographer here in Dallas named Laura Wilson, who happens to be the mother of Owen and Luke Wilson. And this was back in my assisting days when I did assisting photographers. One of the things that she did is she went to Hollywood and she did behind the scenes photography. So she took all the reference photos and stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting because I worked with her for about a year as an assistant, but I got to meet her sons at her house once. It was pretty cool. But she was really good friends with Jackie Chan, so she has a bunch of photos of her and Jackie Chan and him in his outfits and stuff that she took photos of. So it's kind of cool. I mean, I got to work with some pretty cool people in my freelancing days. Alright, so these eyes. So now these heads, or the sculpts, we have the left eye is squinted. I've got my exposure down a little bit here. The left eye is a little squinty compared to the right eye on that one. Is this one the same? And on this one, the left eye is a little squinty compared to the other one. So let's do. So what I like to do is I like to, again, this is not the correct lens, and I don't have any other lenses up here to show this. But what I typically do, and you're probably not able to see this because again, this is not a close-up lens, but I take these decals, I cut them out in a pair, and then what I do is I take my X-Acto knife and I'm like, okay, I'm going to cut them in half right about, usually right above the iris. And I do them at the same time to make sure that they're the same size. And this is a brand new blade. Can't do this with a dull blade because I'm just going to go in there and press down on that. And then that goes away. And I got two eyes that are the same size. Now I go in and trim as much of the white paper off as I can. Because that's got the one thing about these decals is they're not pre-cut, meaning that the decal film is over the whole decal. If they're pre-cut, that means there will only be decal film just right around the color of the decal. So now the eye that's tricky to put on is the one that's squinty because you gotta kind of get this decal to fit in that little spot. So anyway, we'll get to work. So there, those are trimmed up, ready to go. And I like to get piece of blue tack. We're gonna put these other two to the side so I don't lose them. I've been known to like have decals out, cut, trimmed, ready to go, like sneeze or blow or something, and they go flying, and then I can never find them. I'm gonna put this on a piece of blue tack. And I'll try to do this on camera. And I like to have a Q-tip, my X-Acto knife, and a clean brush. This is relatively clean, and some clean water. I can just put some water in them. Make sure it's water, not lacquer thinner. You'll ruin your paint. So I'm just going to start off with on this one. I'm going to start off with the right eye because it's not as squinty. And I think I'm going to have him looking. I'm going to put his head on the torso real quick and see which way these should be going. Okay, so his gaze is to his left, so I'm going to have the eyes going to his left. So let's get that one out of the way so I don't lose it. Bring this one over here. And again, I'll probably just do a little bit of this on camera so I can see. So I'm just going to put some water. And this has been sealed already, like with that Krylon matte or flat. I put that on the eye. I used to put these eyes in water, but I found that it's easier if I just put a little bit of water on the head in the socket and then put the decal on top of it. A lot of times these release pretty easily. Sometimes the decals will go floating off in the water and then you never get them back. See, it's already loose from the paper. Okay, get the paper out of the way. I know this is the tricky part. I'll turn off my autofocus here. I'm going to brighten up the exposure a little bit, maybe a little bit over, but I'm blocking a lot of my light. So I'm going to take this razor blade and lift this up. once I get one eye the way I want it, then I can use it as a reference for the other eye. Now, right now, the lower part of the eye is, I got excess decal, which is fine. We're going to trim it off. I just took my brush, I wiped it off on a paper towel, and I'm just going in there and getting the excess water up with the bristle. And now, right now, the decal's not laying flat. Oops, hopefully they didn't fall off there. I get it still there. Had where I wanted, and then it got moved when it kind of fell down. Okay, get a little more water on there. I had it placed and then it got bumped. There. So even these aren't the easiest things to use, and they're super fragile. They're really thin. That's where I want it. So now I'm going to just try to get up some excess water. I'm going to take some Decal Setting solution. And put it on. And now I'm just going to let that sit for a while, let that dry. So it's going to soften the decal. It should settle down in there. So when that's done, I'll come back. Okay, so I've done quite a bit since the last time I was recording, but it seems like a lot. So what I did is I got the decals in, sealed them a couple times, trimmed them, and I did the really dark red kind of eyeliner on the top and bottom. So now the eyes look really good. So all they need is a clear coat to finish those off. And I did a little wash on the lips of the transparent black red, so I put it on there with a brush, pretty wet, and then I let it dry for about, I don't know, a minute or two, and then I took a really lightly damped Q-tip and just kind of wiped over it a little bit, just to kind of lessen the effect and just kind of fill in the cracks, but these are looking really good. So once those lips dry, I'll seal this one more time, and then for the hair, I think we're just going to leave it black. I sent a message to my client. He's like, yeah, we don't want to go too red with it. So I think I'm going to just leave it black and see what it goes, what it looks like. I can always go back in later and dry brush it if I want to, but it's looking really sharp. So I'm going to seal these again one more time. And then I've got to finish up the portraits, I've got to paint the little, there's like some little rope or a little tie on the bandana there, and then once that's done I can glue these in to the hair. Oh, there's a knot there too, so there's a knot at the base and a tie there, and then on the long-haired one I'm going to paint this strip that comes across here the same color. That looks like it's a part of that knot, so I'm going to tie that, which is weird. I would think that they would have one on this one too, but I guess not, so it's no big deal. And I'll probably do that like in a dark brown like for a leather or something. So actually I can do that right now. That's a good next step. So let's pick out a color for that. Let's do, I'm going to base it in this. This is called Cavalry Brown from Vallejo. It's a little brighter, but then we're going to do a wash on it. I need to get myself a Vortex paint mixer. Okay, so this is a little on the so we're going to use this color right here. It's called Cavalry Brown to paint this and the knot on the how do we call it, the ponytails. Not pull it, it's like a top knot almost. I tell you what, I didn't use a lot of Vallejo paints in the past, but I'm really liking their brushability. So this looks pretty bright right now, but we're going to tone it down. And it'll dry quite a bit darker. Vallejos tend to dry quite a bit darker than how they go on. Excuse me. Paint this bottom edge here. Kind of do some artistic license as far as where the hair starts in this piece begins. Kind of gets melded into the same in the sculpt here. We're going to go this and do a really dark wash over this and stain it darker. Just like that. Put this back on its stick that I have it hanging on. And then we'll do the same thing with these guys. Paint that whole thing. I'm going to glue these on anyway. And it's my alarm to go pick up my daughter, so I'll do that. And then come back and finish doing these, and then we'll show you the wash. I decided to go ahead and do some dry brushing on the Fist of Doom, so I've got some Vallejo. This is heavy red. And I'm just lightly dry brushing some of this on. Just kind of using the flat part of my brush. I'm just adding kind of another tone to this. I liked it before, but I felt it was a little heavy. So just real light. It's helping bring out some of this details a little bit more. And just bringing it up a little bit brighter. It's not going to look the same as the skin because this is a different color red. It's got a little more rust in it, which fits perfectly for this. Yeah, if you just use the flat part of the brush, like this, it's also helping bring out some of that swirly pattern that's in there. I was trying to do that earlier with the wash, but it was getting really dark, so. glad I did this. See, I thought I was done with this, but nope. I was done with this part. This when you say you're done with something, you go back and I go back and change something or tweak it a little bit. Yeah, so this is looking good. I think I better seal it, then I'll be done with it. Yeah. Okay. So we'll put one more coat of sealer on this, and then I think we'll be happy. You just brighten it up a little bit and help bring out some of the details a little bit more. So that's good. Let's see. So I'll go seal that. I'll go seal the hair on the ribbons, and we'll do a wash on those. All right. So for the hairband and the top knots, I'm just doing a wash of the MIG Starship wash. This is gonna be the perfect color I want because it's got a little bit of green, a little bit of brown. And it's just darkening this down just perfectly. So I'm just putting this on here and letting it to do its thing. I may do 2 coats. I did 2 coats on the top knots. So give me a nice look up. I was thinking leather, but it's more like maybe like a canvas or some kind of tie like that. So let this dry, do it again, and then we'll let it dry and then seal it, and that should be good. Alright, so the last thing I gotta do on these portraits is paint his earrings. And I'm gonna go with this Vallejo Old Gold color. Now this stuff separates quite a bit, so this stuff is really good paint. I really like this, one of my favorite metallics. Need a little teeny tiny brush. I like liner brushes for this stuff. We got super small earrings here. I don't know if you'll be able to see me do it, but it's got 2 on each ear. I also painted the cigar. I'll show that to you in a second. Really like this paint. It covers really, really well. It hand brushes really nice. There's 2. You do have to shake it up every once in a while because it settles pretty quick. I can't see that. I can't see that. It's not. There's no light on it. The littlest thing can take the longest time to paint sometimes. That's often the case. Alright, so he's got his earrings painted on that head. I'm going to do that on the other head. And then I think I'm going to take some pictures and send to my client. The cigar, where'd that go? It's over here. So I can paint like a cherry on it. And did some washes and stuff on it, so it looks good now. That's done. Let's put that in his mouth, see what it looks like. I'm going to move this out of the way so do not spill paint on him. Looking pretty good. This one gets the short horns, so once I get done with this, I'll put them all together on the basin and I'll show you what he's looking like. Alright, so this is what he's looking like so far. Digging it, really digging it. He's pretty loosely put together, so I'm not going to turn him too much, but in particular this arm is not going to stay in if I turn him, so I'm going to take it off. I think he's looking pretty good. Pretty happy with it. This Doom looks good against that red. Again, he's a little shiny, so it's hard to see some of the. It's shiny in the video. It's not this shiny in person because these lights are so dang harsh. I think his portraits look good. Like the horns. And this is the long-haired portrait. I see a little spot of black. Oh no, that's just a piece of dirt. If we turn them around, you can see how that goes together. So I thought I would be able to glue the hair and his head together, but I think that's not a good idea. I think I'm going to leave it separate. For packing purpose is one thing, and also it's the way it's got to fit on his shoulders. That's the way it sits. So let me take this head off. So the head comes off straight up, and the hair's got to come straight up like that. You can't slide the hair on from the back. It's got to come down from the top. Let's put the other portrait on, the short-haired portrait with the cigar, like that. Where's the cigar? Let's throw that in. And then the short horns. Yeah, looking sharp. I really like the red. This red. So I was looking at, I was chatting with my client about this, and depending on which photos you look at of the reference photos, he's like tomato. He can go from tomato red to like almost orange red to a kind of a burnt red. This is kind of like towards the more darker burnt red, which I like. It's not as like vibrant as the Nair and Hellboys I do. So the Nair and Hellboys I do are a more vibrant tone. I like this. On the tail. Tail looks good. That nice subtle shading going on. And then if I put this arm back on, turn around. Oh, I didn't put his top knot on. Oops. Let's do that. That'll get glued in eventually. And this arm will get glued in. Even though it came separate, we're going to glue it in, and I'll have to find a way to repack it, because this has got to hold that big Gatling gun up there. And with that weight on there, I'm just afraid that a magnet might not hold that over time, so I'm just going to glue it on. But I think it looks good. Somebody calls work in progress done. I'm not sure. That's going to be a long one because it covers all the red, the horns, and everything. But after the next step will just be start going in and hand painting all this leather and stuff. So that's going to take a lot of time. For the pants, I'll probably do I have to look. I think they're black, and then I'll do all these strappings and everything dark brown. There's a ton of detail on this thing. I mean, it's just insane. I thought the Nair and Hellboy had a lot of detail. This is like over the top, just really cool. Lots of detail. So lots of hand painting to come up. So yeah. So end up work in progress. I think this may be 2 or 3. I think I said, I can't remember what number I said at the beginning, but I forgot that I think I already did 1 work in progress, like adding magnets and stuff. So, but there you go. Stay tuned for the next one, and thanks for watching. Bye.